In the vast amphitheater of political banter and comedic soliloquy, where the Stygian abysses of modern discourse fester, Jon Stewart emerges as an emblematic phantasm, part jester, part oracle, a harbinger of an era long ossified into cultural nostalgia.
Can you name any funny supporters? Yes, all of us can. We can all name one or two. But put it in chat. All of us know we can all name one or two. There's one that should come to everybody's mind. Besides me. Obviously. Okay, holy shit. That was not at all that was not the unison I was expecting. Jon Stewart. I think that Jon Stewart was the left-wing guy for a long time. As much as he would say he just does a comedy show, or as much as he would say that, it wasn't supposed to be serious. Like, a lot of people looked to Jon Stewart for a lot of their kind of like political information, believe it or not. I think it hurt that he took such a long break from politics and just recently came back, so he lost out on the big wave of anti-Trump people. I mean, a little bit, but I think that I'm trying to think. I don't know if Jon Stewart ever wanted to be like a serious political commentator. I think he enjoyed his time on The Daily Show. I don't know if Jon Stewart was ever like, I really want to be, like a political pundit. I'm not sure. Because every time, unless this was just like a cope, I guess, but like every single time people would press him on like, why don't you do serious political stuff? He's like, I'm on Comedy Central, bro. It's just memes. It's just jokes here. I'm not doing like real political work. So, but maybe that was just like a cope or an excuse because he wasn't holding people accountable. But I mean, he was on Comedy Central, so. Did Bill Maher's acts kill his credibility? No, I think Bill Maher's always kind of been like on an island. His Apple show was much more serious, and he has his weekly show podcast on YouTube. He's more serious about it now from Josiah. Yeah, sure, he is now, but I don't know if, but I mean, like he took, was it over a decade off that he took from doing any, like, when did Jon Stewart retire from the Daily Show? That feels gross to think about that it was a decade. Hold on. Jon Stewart retires, Daily Show. Was it 2015? Holy shit. Like, it feels like he's, he literally has a bit about how he's getting older and he's becoming more Republican and he's becoming lamer, but right now he's definitely more Republican because there's no space for him on the left. Is he actually Republican at all, or is he just like not like crazy progressive woke or whatever? How often do your AirPods make that stupid sound? Wait, did it just make this noise? The bloop bloop, like the Find My thing? No, he is crazy progressive woke. Yes, it did. Apparently, sometimes your AirPods can get disconnected, or I don't even know how to explain it. They don't identify, they don't ID as yours anymore, but they still have that Find My code in it. So it acts, basically it's acting like, oh, wait, mine are actually out of the case. I think they're, never mind. That's a totally different code. Sorry. Sometimes they'll lose the Find My thing, so it beeps like you've stolen it, or I guess like somebody else is tracking it, but there's no way to like undo it, which is really annoying. But okay. Do you watch his podcast at all? He's not progressive woke or Republicans. Chad is retarded. He's just very 2015 Democrat aid poll. Oh.
To interrogate Stewart's enigmatic trajectory, one must grapple with the duality of his persona, a comedic provocator tethered to the absurdities of modern governance and a reluctant soothsayer whose mantle was thrust upon him by exigent circumstance. Yet, as destiny's musings swirl through the ether like a cerebral hurricane, we are beckoned to ponder, has Stewart's sardonic gravitas waned amidst the chaotic, tonic tides of today's information age? Stewart, for all intents and purposes, once occupied a gilded seat within the agora of infotainment, where satire functioned as both balm and battering ram. He embodied the ancient Greek parrhesia, a fearless truth-telling sharpened by comedic precision, guiding the polity through Bushian jingoism, neo-conservative disarray, and the adolescent emergence of post-9/11 media absurdity. For over a decade, his daily show served as the vox clamantis of the left-leaning Zeitgeist, a sanctum where hypocrisy was vivisected and lobotomized on live television to the elated roars of those who craved cathartic repudiation of political perfidy. But here lies the rub. The existential fissure in Stewart's narrative is not one of talent but of temporal absence. Time, as the romance proclaimed, is the alter inexorabilis, the relentless avenger, and when Stewart abdicated his throne in 2015, the cultural tectonics began to quake. In his hiatus, the socio-political tapestry transmogrified into a kaleidoscopic pandemonium, governed by anti-Trump insurgencies, ideological balkanization, and the weaponization of narrative under the aegis of social media's dopamine-fueled panopticon. Stewart returned not to his old arena but to an unrecognizable colosseum, where nuance is devoured whole by algorithmic virality and where satirical levity struggles to pierce the armor of systemic cynicism. Destiny, ever the digital polemicist, postulates with a sly cynicism that Stewart may never have truly yearned for the crown of a serious commentatorius. For Stewart's comedic ethos thrived on subversion, not solemnity, an artful subterfuge where laughter masked discomforting truths. By branding himself as a mere comedian, he engaged in the Socratic paradox, wielding irony to absolve himself from the gravitas imposed upon him by his audience. And yet, paradoxically, this disavowal of authority became the very apparatus of his influence. In a world beguiled by hyperpartisan idolatry, Stewart emerged as a Prometheus of media criticism, bearing fire to those yearning for intellectual reprieve amidst the yawning chasm of 24-hour propaganda. However, time away is not without consequence. Stewart's absence from the scene during Trumpian ascendancy left a void voraciously filled by newer, more bellicose voices, some sardonic, others incendiary. The Zeitgeistes interruptus of Stewart's long sabbatical stripped him of continuity. He missed the epicentra irritabilis, the precise cultural moments that might have cemented him further as a modern-day Aristophanes against authoritarian buffoonery. By the time of his return, Stewart, once the irreverent luminary, now finds himself recalibrating in a landscape where outrage, not wit, reigns supreme. Destiny further gestures toward the splintering paradigms of contemporary political identity, a fractured arena where no allegiance remains sacred. Stewart, ensconced within the comfortably disheveled aesthetics of 2015 liberalism, appears a relic to those who demand absolute ideological fealty. The chattering classes, who oscillate between progressive fervor and populist invective, decry Stewart for not embracing the woken peripetia, the performative epiphanies that characterize many of his contemporaries. On the other hand, the rightward polemicists, seeking to weaponize any opposition to progressive orthodoxy, label him a nostalgic paragon of pre-cancel culture centrism. Yet herein lies the deeper enigma of Stewart's evolution. He is not a Republican. He is not crazy woke. He is, to borrow from Aristotle, the mesots incarnatus, occupying a golden mean that no longer satisfies the tribal appetites of the modern electorate. His comedic enterprise reflects not partisan obeisance but moral frustration, a palpable exasperation with systems of governance and media machinations that reward performative deception. He criticized the left's ideological zeal while simultaneously skewering the right's Machiavellian descent into ridiculum infinitum. In truth, Stewart's ambiguity reflects the nihilistic vertigo of the age. No longer can humorists tread the middle ground without accusations of duplicity or cowardice. The current political psyche demands pugilistic certainty, something Stewart, in his comic sagacity, refuses to provide. He is both too progressive and insufficiently radical, too critical of the left and yet fundamentally unsympathetic to the right. This ideological fluidity alienates him from the cacophonic echo chambers where rigid orthodoxy is the currency of allegiance. And yet, Destiny's invocation of Stewart, however sardonic, remains illustrative of the cultural hunger for voices that transcend the binary entrenchment of the modern media landscape. Stewart's comedy, whether or not it holds its former gravitas, functions as an intellectual exorcism, a purging of the absurdities that infest both sides of the aisle. While his satirical daggers once pierced hypocrisy with surgical precision, today they collide against an ideological exoskeleton hardened by digital tribalism and collective fatigue. Stewart's return is thus not a triumph but an ambivalent spectacle, a reminder of a bygone era when comedy served as the conscience of a nation teetering on the precipice. Destiny, in his glib reflections, captures the truth few wish to admit. Stewart's influence persists not because he aligns with the ideological moment but because he embodies a nostalgic ideal of discourse, humor as rebellion, satire as salvation. What remains uncertain is whether Stewart can adapt to this new paradigm or if his dulcet invectives are now relics, a Cassandra crying out in a desert where laughter has been replaced by rage. Whatever the verdict, his legacy persists as both cautionary tale and comedic triumph, a jester who rose too high and returned to a kingdom he no longer recognized. The donkey of this particular week, then, is not Stewart himself, but the cruel trickery of time, a tempest tyrannus, devouring kings, comedians, and critics alike. For in the theatre of absurdity that is modern politics, even Jon Stewart, our erstwhile puck of postmodern discourse, must learn anew how to wield satire against a hydra whose heads regenerate with every news cycle.